after you have collected texts, either manually or semi-automatically, what happens next? We usually collect texts with an aim to conduct research or to provide language resources to the wider communities. But what are language resources? They are datasets and tools used in linguistic research and applications such as corpora, lexicons, or translation memories. The value of these resources increases when they are shared and reused by others. They become valuable assets. To make this possible, we need to manage our data in a transparent, documented, and accessible way. We need to do so while we produce our dataset, otherwise chances are we won't be able to share it later on. And this is where open science and FAIR principles come into play. A key goal is to make data free of charge, reusable and well documented in order to ensure research integrity and reproducibility. A practical example, making the corpus you have just collected for your research also available to others for future studies, teaching, or tool development. FAIR stands for Findable, Accessible, Interoperable across software and tools, Reusable. These principles were formalized in 2016 by Wilkinson et al. To ensure that data can be easily discovered and reused by both humans and machines. Importantly, the FAIR approach does not mean that all data must be completely open. Instead, FAIR data are as open as possible, as closed as necessary. This is especially important when dealing with sensitive or personal content. In practice, FAIR means that your dataset should be findable on the web better if with a persistent object identifier like a DOI, that is a permanent unique alphanumeric string assigned to a digital object. It should be saved in an accessible and interoperable file format. For example, choose CSV over XLSX and TXT over DocX. And it should contain indications about how to use it. This information can be included in a Readme file, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But before that, we need to introduce another important tool, the data management plan. To implement FAIR principles while constructing your corpus, you can use a data management plan, abbreviated as DMP. The DMP is a living document that allows you to keep track of your decisions. It outlines what data will be collected and how, the standards and formats used, how data will be shared or not, privacy and ethical concerns, and long-term preservation strategies. Templates for DMPs can be found on portals like Science Europe. Keep in mind that writing a DMP is not obligatory, especially for smaller projects, but it's a good practice which can also help you to produce a better Readme file. The Readme file can be seen as a practical tool that makes your data fair. Think of the Readme file as your dataset's user manual. It explains what the dataset is about, that is, what type of language or discourse your corpus is meant to represent, how it was created, which means your selection criteria, collection and processing procedures, and how it's structured, how to use it, which also includes how to use annotation and different versions of the corpus that you may have created, information about copyright and creators. A good Readme file makes your corpus self-explanatory, even for someone who was not involved in the project. There is no one-size-fits-all, but a useful template would include general description of the corpus, project details, for example about the funders, the contact person, the title of the project, data collection information, ethical information about data collection if needed, corpus composition and structure, information about text processing and transcription if it's a spoken corpus, file formats and encoding, metadata structure and annotation structure. This structure is inspired by Horizon Europe guidelines and institutional repositories like the University of Bologna's Avanzata. To see a good example from an important project lately developed, you can check the Readme file of the Parliament Corpora. When writing your Readme file, remember to avoid proprietary formats and opt for open, easily accessible ones, like plain text, extension TXT. Standards are formal guidelines that ensure data is collected, stored, shared and used in a consistent, accurate and secure way across time and organizations. They are very important for interoperability, which, as you might have understood, is the ability to share and reuse data across tools and projects. In this course, we present standards for encoding, annotating and sharing data. Over the time, researchers in different fields have established standards and guidelines for metadata, annotation and documentation accompanying datasets. So when you're building your own dataset, you should first search for such information and make your choice also depending on the tools that you want your data to be used with. Making data fair is not just a bureaucratic step, it's a scientific responsibility. A good tool to improve data fairness is the Readme file. A clear, detailed Readme file enhances the transparency of your research, increases visibility and citability of your dataset, and helps future researchers understand and trust your work. Now that we have our corpus ready for use and share, in the next sessions we will explore methods to analyze text through corpus query tools. Keep the information about data fairness and documentation in mind, as it will become relevant also when we talk about how to find and use already existing corpora. The take-home message from this session is, without good documentation, even the best corpus remains a black box.